Welcome to the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Millicant, and then we've got Charlie Cunt.
Yes, we are one man down this week.
We are
James,
one down this week. We have the boy James out and Marbs. I'm already in the Caribbean. I've got no excuses. I'm putting my responsibility as a podcast member first. But to be fair, I feel like James isn't exactly in a mindset to do a podcast. But he's doing a lot of naughty things.
I'm so focused on other things and other people right now.
Shout out to the boy for getting it done.
Yeah, if you've got a girlfriend in Marbs,
yeah, you might have fucked up. Very good chance.
There is a high chance of that.
What was the name? What was the girl's name in the TikTok?
Oh, it was Anna.
I think I was going to say it, but I didn't want to say it out loud.
No, it was.
So if you're watching, if you've got a girlfriend in Cardiff, or a girlfriend from Cardiff, and then her name's Anna, and she was a Marbs, James bent her over, mate.
Yeah, mate. So unlucky for you.
Unlucky. So yeah. So as it's just the bodybuilders, we thought we would do a bodybuilding-based topic. So obviously, I recently, aka last year, competed in my first ever prep and show. And obviously Charlie is well on his way to taking the stage himself in a few years, hopefully sooner rather than later. But we might as well start on that. We might as well start on someone who's looking to do their first prep. So talk us through the thought process, what your last couple of years of preparation has been, and what is the plan basically going on to the future?
Okay, so when I sort of realised what competing was, especially naturally, I was like, right, okay, decided I want to do it. Then did a little assessment and was like, right, I need a lot more muscle. Okay, so went into a massive push phase. Obviously got a coach, signed up with AJ. And the plan originally was to do next year, 2023, because it'll be my last year as a junior. So might as well make the most of being in the junior category, being up against people my age rather than being up against 35-year-olds, if that makes sense. So that was the plan originally. And over the last year and a half, we've made really good progress. We've done one diet, and just over the time, just working towards building more muscle. That's literally been the goal. And then we did this diet recently, just to pull back, see where we're at. And from seeing where we're at, we're not ready. Not ready. I could do it next year, and see how I get on, see if I like it. But for me, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice a whole year of prepping and progress just to see if I like it, or see and just come not even place. For me, obviously it's not about winning, it's not about that, but there's a certain level of achievement I want to achieve, especially
athlete, and you want to be competitive.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be competitive. That's the main thing. That's one of the biggest things I want to do in the first year, is just be competitive. So we're probably going to push it back to 2024, and probably do the novice category, or just the tall, depending on how I look. But I would be prepared to wait till 2025. That's the limit. I've set the limit of 2025 now. If the only reason I'd wait, so say if I did a diet next year and AJ was like, right, you could compete in 2024, be competitive, probably get to the finals and maybe top 5 at the finals, maybe around that. If you said that for 2024, but if you said if I waited another year, you could be challenging for the British title, I'd probably wait an extra year. So
keep in mind as well, guys, that Charlie is not men's equal classic. Charlie's trying to do bodybuilding, which means
just pure open bodybuilding.
Progress to make, a lot more holes to fill, especially as someone who's tall. Both me and Charlie are rather tall individuals, and Charlie's even taller than me. And the main thing with being tall is you've got a lot of frame to fill. And as granted, that will be an advantage once you hit that tipping point of because I feel when you're tall, and this has happened for me recently, especially with my legs, you get to a tipping point where you're small, you add all this mass on, and then all of a sudden it feels almost overnight, bang, because you just tipped that tipping point, you fill the frame to a certain limit, you look even bigger than you would if you were shorter because of simply like the frame, the stage presence, and whatnot.
Yeah, like I think a big, tall guy just outpowers everyone else, like all the short guys, no matter how, even if they're bigger, just because like the size, the structure. But it just takes a while to fill out, which is annoying. So yeah, I'm in no rush like to compete. Obviously, especially this year, like I feel like the urge is even more because I'm seeing a lot more people compete. Obviously, being with Adam as well and training with him, so it does make me want to compete more. But 2024 will probably be the year, I think, especially if this off season goes as well as previous years. I think 2024 should be good to go. And yeah, that's the plan, really.
Yeah. So as we said, you've been working now. So you've been working with AJ for the last 2 years.
Year and a half.
Year and a half, almost 2 years. So by the time we come to you stepping on stage, it'll be almost 3 years.
Yeah, pretty much 3 years. Yeah.
Well,
no. Wait. 4.
4 years.
I think
I
joined.
2023 will be 2024. So yeah, so I think it'll be almost 4 years of work.
Yeah. So I joined at the end of 2020. I think. Yeah, no, I did. The end of 2020.
There you go. And if you compete in UKFBA, the shows are in September, October anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's 4 years of graph that's been put in.
But that's a solid graph, like not missing a meal, not missing a training session, like endlessly pursuing the goal, not just like general, bulking here, I'll have a burger, like I'll do this, I might just skip this. This has been solid graph, like pushing.
Like everything has been to a T, basically for 4 years. As our good friend George Osborne would say, full-time effort, and he's going to get full-time results.
Exactly.
So that. Yeah, so then we switch over to something. Obviously, my map path with you could say, which has been a bit different to the way Chai has done here. So again, keep in mind that I did my first show being men's physique, so that's obviously going to change, obviously potentially the path in which you take, because basically whatever category you take you'll need to take either more longer off seasons depending on where you are, your journey, and that kind of good stuff. So I started off and I was like, okay, I've built myself up like a decent amount of size, what I thought was a decent amount of size. And obviously later on, you just as Chai did, you find out that maybe you weren't as big as you potentially were going to be. So I worked with Josh our problem was we had lockdown. So I joined Josh end of 2019, lockdown 2020. And then I'd say I only had like good proper training and was in like a proper off season from October 2020 until what have been. I basically had about 6 months of proper off season ever like when I was actually doing everything to a T, like the food, the training, the check-ins, everything like that. Which I made a lot of progress in 6 months. Like I was very, very, very surprised at how much progress I made in such like short period of time, which makes me think if I stepped on stage without doing those 6 months, I would have been like, fuck, I probably wouldn't have gone through the prep because I would have got halfway through and been like, this is just like this is not enough. Yeah. So I took a slightly different approach. I wanted to do the prep to see if I could do it. Because I knew in men's physique I would be competitive. Like I had no aspirations to go through for a British title at that point. Like I was like, I know I could be relatively competitive. I want to do this process before I then go on and commit to doing an off season, commit to potentially going enhanced, which is obviously a massive choice. So I was like, okay, let me do it, and then let me see if I enjoy it. Also for me, it was like cool because like obviously at the time it gave me a reason to start doing YouTube. And it gave me a reason to start investing more into like being more of a content creator per se, because he gave me direction, which was the main thing. For me, direction is a massive thing, giving myself a reason to, okay, I need to film today, so I need to do X, Y, and Z. So did my prep. I was semi-happy result. Obviously, the end result wasn't what I wanted. But at the end of the day, I achieved what I set out to do, which was to see if I could prep what you could, see if obviously what the package stage had potential to be potentially IFBB pro level in however many years' time. And I realized, okay, I have foundations for it. I now know I have the genetic structure for it if I really commit to it. But I was like, I know, like, now, if I go for the British title like I'm going to next year, I'm going to need to commit properly. Obviously, Charlie's a bit more strict than I am. I'm a bit of a fucking pie animal sometimes. I do like a bit of socializing. So I took a slightly different approach in terms of what I then basically I've mapped out from the end of my show until next time I step on stage. Was I was like, okay, finished with prep. I did my recomp phase properly. I then basically did my recomp phase properly till about when did we go? April. That's when we went to Barca. So that's when, because that was so when we went to K9. That was the start of my first cleanup. So I did 8 months of proper off season, put on 35 pounds in 8 months from finishing my show, and I didn't get too fat. Like I put on fat, but I was by no means too fat whatsoever. So a good amount of that, obviously, then I then found out from doing my cleanup was good tissue. However, most of it has gone to my legs, which I'm not complaining about, but at the same time, it's not very helpful considering I'm trying to do men's physique. So yeah, then did my cleanup phase, and then from there, basically, what I've done is I'm now obviously we've hit summer, and summer, I cannot help myself. I'm a whore for festivals. I'm a whore for D&D festivals. Like, I will drop my pants for fucking D&D festival, mate. So I was like, okay, what can I do to still work towards my goals, but also still basically do the rest of my life? So what I've done is I've set myself something that's adherable. Like being adherable is the most key thing. So you've got to be adherable to whatever your situation is. For example, Charlie, he's going off somewhere now. But so for Charlie, he has a job in a gym like me, but he also then doesn't have quite the party lifestyle like I do. So for him, it makes sense to be able to set himself goals, which is being not missing a meal, not missing a training session, and being 100% full on, regardless of whatever time of the year it is. So, and for me, I was like, okay, I still want to do a few things this summer because I know like this is my last year potentially of like properly partying, because I know after this, the plan is obviously to go to Sisters. So I was like, I need to get any seshing out of my system so I can feel like I don't have regrets, because I can't, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to need to do it now, because after this, there'll be no more time left. So
yeah,
these festivals, done holidays like I'm on now. But what I've done is I've made sure I've stuck to training as much as humanly possible. And then what I've done is I put myself in a slight surplus just to make sure I'm still then growing and I'm still working towards my goal. And then come November, as I've said, I'm going to basically shut everything down, and that'll be me done for basically a year, because obviously it'll be 6 months left of off season and then 6 months of prep. So when it obviously this is all going to tie back coming into like knowing like when to choose a show. So like this is also, we can sort of tie into knowing when to choose a show, regardless if it's your first or if it's another one. So I feel like we've said in the past, like especially as a natural as well, you need to have at least minimum 12 months in a surplus between shows, let alone your first show. Before your first show, obviously you should have 2 years
at least, yeah,
of season if you want to be competitive and you want to do well, unless you're just a genetic freak. So obviously 2 different approaches in terms of, for me, I was like, okay, I want to do the try before you buy. Obviously sacrificing potentially longer time in off season, but with the bigger picture being, I know I was going to be going into a longer season, like off season after. Or you got Try's approach, which is still obviously good. Both approaches are good. Both approaches need to be up to you and your situation. Yeah. Don't feel like you have to do my way for whatever reason, or you feel like you do Try's way. Do whatever you feel is going to, 1, work around your life, and then 2, be like, in line with your goals. So for example, my goal, Try before you buy. Try's goal, he wants to step on the stage, and for the moment he steps on stage, he wants to basically be gunning for that title. He doesn't want to have any kind of like doubt in his mind that like the last like 4 fucking years, that's a lot of meals, it's a lot of food, it's
A lot of chicken and rice.
A lot of fucking chicken and rice. He wants to make sure that counts for something. So yeah. So that kind of talks about obviously our individual choices. What would you say then coming away from this? Because it's always good to kind of like round up and give a quick summary just to like get rid of a load of waffle. So what would you say are like the key points you need to think about before choosing your next show or even your first show? So we've always said first show, 2 years minimum in off season.
Yeah.
Or just 2 years of good training at least.
I think the biggest thing is getting a coach. Like, I think that is the massive thing. And getting a coach that has experience or like a lot of knowledge in terms of competing. Not necessarily has competed before.
I think though.
Pardon?
Personally, I would rather choose. I would say definitely do favor experience, to a certain extent, because I feel like it is like a case of even like coaches like Callum Raystrick. He's obviously been coaching and obviously his knowledge was exponential. But he's only ever done. But he then like it was only about halfway through his career. He was like, oh, I want to show to do the process. I feel like you need to do at least one prep before you start telling people how to do prep because you don't know how you're going. Like I can tell you now, the emotions and like the things and like are going through my head. Like the only things you can relate to it if you've been through a prep. Like there's some things it's like a language. Like you have to do the prep to learn the language.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, definitely, I think get a coach, one mainly that you get on with. I think that's a big thing. One that you can relate to. I know that's why you went with Josh. That's why I went with AJ because there was a relatability outside of just a coach bodybuilding relationship wise sort of thing. And that will make it like a lot easier in terms of prep as well. Just having someone that you get on with because you're going to be ended up speaking to them like pretty much every day. So you need to be able to understand each other and get along. So I think having a coach is definitely the biggest thing because I know a lot of people do it themselves like the first time round and then they either fall off because they just can't hack it on their own or they just aren't ready, not lean enough.
Well, yeah, usually when you coach yourself, you usually end up making wrong choices because you have no experience or knowledge to draw upon.
Exactly. And the likelihood is you'll always have more to lose than you think.
Yeah. Especially the first time round.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like for example, so my friend Robbie, who I competed against, who won, he coached himself.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. He coached himself completely the whole way through. So he coached himself and
didn't he have no, I thought he had Tim.
I'll get on to that. So he coached himself. Wait, no, don't worry. I'm getting there. So he coached himself like basically Tim did his peak week. Okay. That was it. So Robbie basically like he drew all of his choices from the knowledge he has, but that's because he was a very knowledgeable guy. He's been coaching for 2-3 years prior to this, so he had like I don't know if he's prepped someone before, but he had like the knowledge to do it. And like Robbie is not an emotional person; like he makes all his choices not off his heart but through his head. So that's a different kettle of fish per se. Generally, as Charlie said, best thing to do is go with a coach. Don't unless you've got like that level of experience and you know you'll be able to make the choices from your head and not your heart, aka your stomach.
Yeah.
That is the main thing. So yeah, coach.
I think the only reason you may not have a coach is if you've been on a journey like in the gym for a long time, like say 10 years plus of training, you've done multiple push-ups, multiple diets.
Yes.
Successful push-ups and diets. I mean, so like where you've made considerable progress over the years, and that by that point you just know your body inside out. Then okay, fair enough. I could understand doing it through yourself, like coaching yourself, and then maybe having some people to chat to and just run your ideas past. But generally, you want to get a coach, especially for the first time.
Yeah. So, X amount of years in a proper off season, or X amount of years prior to your first show.
Yep.
Getting a coach.
Yep.
Anything else?
Give yourself enough time.
Timing. Yeah.
Time. Especially as a natural. It's so much better to be ready early and then just cruise into the show, pushing food, rather than like rushing and like doing hours of cardio like 3 days out from the show.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, give yourself time. If you know you're a fat fuck, then give yourself enough time to know that you will no longer be a fat fuck. And if you're like me and you're a bit leaner, and know your body composition naturally favors being a bit leaner, you could probably get away with a little less time. Like I still needed all 16 weeks, even though I only lost 10 kilos, if that. I lost like 8 to 10 kilos. Like I was by peak weight I got to was like 80.4. But then I then like because of like I took a 3-week break from like training because of the whole COVID thing. I had to fly back from Portugal to the UK, and then I started like a week in the UK before gyms opened up. I ended up losing like 2 kilos just from like fullness and whatnot. So I went from 78 to 70, and then after a refeed I went back up to 72. So, but I still needed all 16 weeks because for me I actually ended up having a lot of water to lose, not even fat.
Yeah.
So obviously before off season, make sure you execute an off season properly. 2, get a coach. 3, give yourself enough time. And then 4, I think you should have a certain level of education. I feel like whether that means watching someone go through a prep from start to finish in terms of like a YouTube series, or educating yourself on platforms like I've been doing on J3, on Train by JP, on Physique Collective. These are all amazing places to learn and places we would recommend you definitely take a visit if you are interested in furthering your knowledge on bodybuilding, whether that's for you to apply to yourself or to apply to others as a coach.
Yeah, I think definitely following along someone's prep is definitely useful because you get like an insight into like how it is, especially if like the person you follow is how would you say, like very interactive about it. Like he gives a lot of updates, that sort of thing. Like I definitely recommend that because then you can just see how it is day to day. And it also, if you know anyone that's been through a prep, like speak to them about it, see how they feel, into how they felt, etc. Things like that.
Because you can never know too much with bodybuilding. You can never know too much. Like there's always stuff to learn. There's always small things that you can apply to yourself that can make your prep that much easier. And any like 1% are massive in bodybuilding.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not just in your off season. That's on prep. Like everything needs to be 1% gains here and there because, as we all know, those 1% add up, and that could be the difference between you winning a show, you winning a national level show, you getting your pro card, obviously down the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I think we had a bit of a ramble at the start about our own individual, obviously, views / journeys, and then obviously we kind of concluded it with a small summary of things you should be considering. Obviously, if you guys have any more questions, obviously feel free to message me or Charlie individually, or even leave comments. And obviously, if you're interested, obviously in doing some kind of competition, obviously me and Charlie both offer coaching that would be beneficial to you guys stepping on stage. Obviously, we both know what we're doing now. I think I can happily both say that if you obviously went with me and Charlie, you're going to like this, unless you're going with some like top level coach, you're not going to get like much better realistically because both of us have done the walk, done the talk.
Yeah.
So you'll still get to prep, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I've got a few people now that are like setting themselves up for future preps in terms of like now they're taking their off season seriously. So it's quite exciting to make sure that they're getting ready for future years.
And then last year also, I ended up finishing a guy's prep for him and I did like the last 2 weeks and obviously this peak week for him as well. So both of us obviously have got some level of experience in that. So anyway, without further ado, we shall conclude it here. I reckon what time? It's a bit late to upload in the UK today, even though our normal upload day obviously is Sunday. Obviously, this kind of week's been a bit of a madness with James being away and then me flying and also being in a very different time zone. Like I'm 5 hours behind right now, so we'll get this up maybe for a Monday upload. Should we upload for tomorrow then? Do you reckon?
Yeah, we could upload this tomorrow.
And then we'll do a normal one on Sunday when I'm back and James is back.
James is back, yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll get back to our normal madness.
Yeah.
I think we should maybe get a guest for the next one.
Yeah, we could do. If you want, drop a comment who you want.
Anyone we can get on here, don't ask for like C-bum and shit because he will not fucking open our DMs.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there's anyone you know, obviously whether it's George, Josh, whoever, we'll see what we can get going. Obviously, between all of us, we do have some decent connections now, so we should be able to get you guys on a juicy guest.
Yes.
Right. Well,
cool.
That's
the pleasure.
I enjoyed of the bodybuilding crew. So signing out, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Like, share, comment, subscribe, leave a rating, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Safe.